the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Alright folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
The wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, AM, FM 24/7, RoarRadio.net, and thepunditpress.com. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the Garden State of New Jersey. That's Anna Little. Anna, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hi, Rick. Glad to be with you.
Great to have you with us, Anna. And it was about 24 hours we first heard of this terrible shooting in San Bernardino, California. And I just thought I'd bring our listeners up to date as far as what we know so far about them. Saeed Farouk, 28, and his wife, Tashifrin Malik, 27, were responsible for the Wednesday attack that killed 14 people and injured 21. These suspects, Saeed Farouk was an environmental specialist who was born in the United States and worked for the San Bernardino County Public Department of Health for 5 years. His wife was in the United States on a K-1 visa and had a Pakistani passport. The couple had a 6-month-old child. They had been married for about 2 years. That they were both Muslims, and it was just recently that Farouk returned to work after a maternity leave. I guess that was almost a 6-month maternity leave. As I said, he worked for the county. His income was about $51,000. I've heard reports, Anna, that it seems like either they were living way beyond their means or they had support from other places. Both were dressed in tactical gear when they attacked, carrying assault weapons. And the weapons were legally purchased, according to the police. They entered the Inland Regional Center and fired between 65 and 75 shots. There were 3 explosive devices left at the center that were linked to remote control cars placed inside a bag, as I said. Apparently, the police also invading. I won't say invading. When the police went into the home, they found an additional 15 pipe bombs ready to be used and exploded, as well as almost 5,000 rounds of ammunition. And that's what we know so far.
Well, Rick, I've got to point out that our way of life is what's under attack here. And the immediate reaction of the liberal media and, of course, liberal politicians is to want to control guns at a time like this. And so I think what we've got to do is we've got to get our heads around the fact that we are in a new world and that terrorism is no longer located in a physical location. It's global. That the terrorists that would attack our lifestyle are ideological, perhaps religious-based, but definitely ideologic-based. And they could be homegrown. In other words, a terrorist can be a United States citizen.
As was this guy.
Yeah.
As was this guy.
What we've got to do, I think, as a nation, Rick, is we've got to accept reality. We have to identify properly who the enemy is, understanding that they are in our midst.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to deal with this enemy appropriately without taking away perhaps the only means of self-defense individuals might have in that circumstance, which is the right to bear arms.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a serious situation right now because our government is led by a liberal man in the White House, and his immediate reaction is going to be to take away all guns from law-abiding citizens, which is going to leave us at the mercy of the terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no way, as we saw in San Bernardino, we saw how quickly that number of people could be killed and the shooters leave the premises before law enforcement even arrived.
Well, Anna, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because apparently there was a police training going on less than 1 mile away from where this happened. Police were there within 5 minutes of this happening. But in the meantime, they had time enough to shoot and kill 14 people and wound about 20 others and leave before the police ever got there to respond. And this is what I've talked about this for some time here in Conservative Commandos, and that people need to be alert. They need to be ready to protect themselves, because if someone comes in with a gun, the police will never get there in time to save you.
Yep, and this is a location that has monthly drills about active shooting scenarios, and they were unable to avoid the deaths of those individuals, and realistically so. I mean, you can't expect defensive maneuvering to help an individual escape an active shooter, because they adjust. Active shooters are active. They adjust to your defensive maneuvering, and somebody's going to get killed. And the only way you stop an active shooter is with a gun and a bullet that stops him. And, obviously, when somebody's shooting to kill you, you shoot to kill right back. You stop the active shooter, and you save lives. There's no other way to stop him.
And again, I've said it here many times, this political correctness is killing us. It really is. The idea that you got people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton says, oh, have your cell phone handy. My God, what are you supposed to do with that cell phone? Throw it at them? I mean, using this as an example, the police were there within minutes. Within 5 minutes, the police were there in force. But the damage, the carnage had already been done. These people had already left.
That's right. And the cell phones were used in this scenario. People who were hiding from the active shooter, they first put themselves in the safest situation they could, and they were texting loved ones, from the scene during the active shooter.
Well, that's all very nice, but, if those people had come into where they were, what's a locked door, Anna, when you've got an assault weapon, when you've got an assault weapon with 1,000 rounds of ammunition? What do you think good a locked door is going to do? My gosh, first thing they're going to do is shoot the lock and come in. I mean, if those people were determined to kill more people before they left, I think they would have done so. And we have to talk for a minute about the party that was going on. Nobody knows why. Apparently he worked with the organization that was having this Christmas party at this center. Apparently he had an argument or words with somebody there and left, came back with his wife, both of them dressed in military garb, and shot the place up, killed 14 people, shot 20 others. What triggered that? Who knows? Was he mad because it was a Christmas party or not a Muslim holiday celebration? I mean, who knows? Will we ever find out what the argument was about? No.
I think we might. I think what's going on right now is law enforcement is trying to track down on leads. They're not sharing all the information they know. They know more than what the media is presenting. So I think eventually the truth will all come out. And I do think because it was only yesterday, they're still working on it. And I'm so glad that they did catch and neutralize the active shooters. They tracked them down. I'm sorry that a shootout had to ensue and that they were dead, but they're not shooting anybody right now, and they're the one fellow I think is in custody. So I think at this point it's really incumbent upon them to figure out who else may have been involved, and to make sure there's no future incidents being planned. And they haven't said it's terrorism, but they haven't said it's not, and they have said that they're moving toward that, which means they're deciding what to tell us, and it's not because they don't want us to know, it's because they don't want whoever they're investigating to know. They want to get the information they need to get before the criminals or the terrorists are aware that they're coming, so that they can collect the necessary information to track down what happened here to the best of their ability, and then to give the information to us so that we're ready for whatever next time. And I hate to say it, but there are going to be next.
There are going to be.
Because these terrorists live among us, Rick, and we have to just wake up and accept that.
All right, Anna, and with that, we will go to our first break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, AM/FM 24/7. Today's show is brought to you by the First Amendment, and believe me, it is protected by the Second. Don't go away, Anna, and I'll be right back.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Also, mornings at 9 a.m., you can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com at 1 p.m., roarradio.net, and at 6 p.m., thepunandpress.com. You could also hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. And a little one thing that I wanted to ask you, you being an immigration attorney, Farouk's wife, Malik, was in the U.S. on a K-1 visa. What does K-1 visa mean?
A K-1 visa is a fiancé visa. It is, I think, let me pull it up. It's based on a family relationship.
Okay. So apparently this couple had just been in Saudi Arabia recently. He claims it was to have, that's where they got married. But who's to say he didn't receive some sort of training or help while he was there? Yeah,
a K-1 visa is actually for a fiancé. It's only valid if the person is not married.
Well, they claim
that's
that
conflicting with the information that they had been married in Saudi Arabia. They needed, on a K-1 fiancé visa, when an immigrant enters the country, they need to be married within 90 days of entry. So what may have happened is they may have come in on the K-1 and then within the 90 days not gotten married here. They may have been sent out to some place, some foreign location to accomplish the marriage and then pursue the residency. But then she shouldn't have been back in the country if she's on the K-1.
Right.
You know?
Well, I don't think they were worried about the law, and I really don't. And another thing I would like to talk about is the response coming from the left. I mean, the response coming from the left is absolutely unbelievable. Of course, you've got people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and everyone on the left calling for more gun control. But I found this, and I wanted to play this audio for our audience. It's the 10 dumbest things said about the San Bernardino attacks. Now, I'm going to ask Mr. John Forsyth Jr. to play that.
As a country to look in the mirror and say, we have a gun problem. You know, a 12-step program starts with, you got to acknowledge you have a problem. Are we mature enough to acknowledge that?
Then what could it be?
It could be some right-wing group, for all I know.
And attacking
a government function. If it's county employees having some type of a banquet there, that takes on more of a domestic militia group, an anti-government domestic militia group wanting to attack the government.
Well, we can tell you that the Planned Parenthood actually of San Bernardino is only a few blocks away. We know how to fix it. Congress resolutely refuses to do it. But I think that
the president also, showing signs of the frustration we've seen from him so many times. He spoke at the funeral for the victims in Charleston. He spoke out in Washington State. He has spoken after Sandy Hook, always coming out calling for more measures to make it more difficult for people to have access to kind of weapons that can pull off these kind of mass shootings. It's been one of the great frustrations of his presidency.
Some may be aware of the fact that we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but those same people who we don't allow to fly could go into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing that we can do to stop them.
In a situation like this, very often the perpetrators intend to commit, murder or suicide by cops. So whether or not there are armed guards there, it's not going to make any difference.
Does this go back to our revolution? We're revolutionary people. We really don't believe in government.
This was a holiday party. Maybe it was called a Christmas party. I mean, there's so many potential triggers here.
And there's always that voice that comes out and says, oh, this particular fix wouldn't have done anything about it, so let's do nothing. Yeah. And that bystander voice is a voice of evil. Shooters are evil, but people who stand by and do nothing and say nothing can be done to fix problems, that's a voice of evil too.
Well, there you have, Anna. There you have the response coming from the left all the way that we have a gun problem, that there is a Planned Parenthood clinic not far away, that Congress can fix it. Oh boy, poor Obama. He's tried so hard. He's worked so hard. Suicide by cop, a new revolution. Oh, we can't fix it, so we just do nothing. I mean, come on, Anna, cut me a break.
Well, I don't think the American people are willing to sit and do nothing. I think the American people stood up in the aftermath of 9/11 in 2001, and they did something. They helped each other. They put their patriotism, they wore it on their sleeve, they wore it on their cars, they hung it outside their homes. And the rhetoric that I heard from the ordinary citizen in the aftermath of 9/11, 2001 was that we would take the fight to our enemy if it were necessary, and then we had a president who did. So I don't believe Americans are going to sit by and do nothing. I do think you're going to see a rise in applications for gun licenses.
Oh, by the way, Good Friday set a record, an all-time record for applications for gun permits.
Because the citizens are being left with no resort. We have to defend ourselves because our government doesn't seem to know what to do.
But yet you got a government who wants to take our weapons away. They half our government says that's the solution.
That to happen. It's the United States Constitution. You can defy an unconstitutional law while it's being challenged. There's too many of us.
How much time? If I challenge that law, Anna, how much time am I going to spend in jail? How much bond am I going to pose trying to prove the point?
That's your first. Listen, Rick. Here's the situation.
Yeah.
We cannot roll over and play dead for the terrorists, and we can't allow our government to require us to do so. So what you do is you challenge those laws. I'm not advocating us to become a violent people. We are not a violent people. We are a freedom-loving, non-violent society, and we should stay so. Mm-hmm. But you do need to be able to defend yourself in a terrorist situation, and I think gun ownership, responsible, lawful gun ownership, and gun education is the only way you're going to defend yourself. And I think
agree.
American people get it.
I agree. You know what it reminds me of, Anna? Back in the early pioneer days, when the pioneers started moving west, one of the things they took with them was a firearm. You know why they took a firearm with them, Anna? Because they know there was a lot of hostile people out there who wasn't going to accept them moving out there. And there was no police, there was no army to protect them. It'd be like saying to those settlers, those pioneers, "Oh, you can go, but we're going to take away your right to defend yourself." And that's what this government is doing. It's leaving us to the Indians, Anna.
Yeah, I guess apparently so, or in this case, not the Indians, the terrorists, who could be of any nationality.
Well, you know what I meant.
United States citizens.
I was using that as just an analogy. Just an analogy. Anna, 1 minute before a break. Anything else?
Well, no, that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously, it's dominated my thoughts the same way it's dominated yours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling very sorrowful that it occurred, and of course sympathetic. And I've got children who are adults on in different college scenarios where I don't have access to them on a daily basis, and could very easily have happened in any of those locations. So I'm thinking about that. I have kids, young adults, my children who use mass transit. Could certainly happen there too. So I feel what everybody else is feeling right now. I think that once my rational side takes over, I realize that we have to accept reality. We have to stand up and be Americans, freedom-loving Americans. And we need to live our lives and take whatever practical steps are possible to be prepared to defend oneself and report everything you see. The other thing has occurred, has come out of this, is that neighbors saw suspicious activity, failed to report it because they didn't want to be accused of racism. Guys, those other folks that died might be alive today if you opened your mouth.
Like I said, Anna, this political correctness is killing us. It absolutely is. Hey, Anna, we got to go. We are up against our break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, AM/FM 24/7. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Liz Peek from the Fiscal Time. 3 reasons Americans won't back Obama's push for climate accord. Be right back.
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night at Concord Bridge in Trenton. For freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or 1 p.m. RoarRadio.net, and 6 p.m. thepunditpress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. This segment, we have the honor of speaking with Liz Peek. Liz Peek spent over 20 years on Wall Street, most of them as a top-ranked research analyst. She's now a columnist and political analyst, and aside from the Fiscal Times, she writes for FoxNews.com, the New York Sun, and Women on the Web. Liz, welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show.
So nice to be with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I love the topic we're going to be discussing. 3 reasons Americans won't back Obama's Paris Climate Accord. Tell us, Liz, why won't we be backing this?
Well, I think that the president is astonished to find, and polls pretty much show, that even though Americans pay lip service to the request for an international emissions accord, which of course is what Obama hopes to get out of the Paris meetings. The truth is Americans are pretty indifferent to the entire topic of climate change. They never list it as one of their top concerns. They say that they don't want to pay a tax on gasoline, which would, of course, in theory, at least, limit the amount we drive. They don't want a new tax on electricity to, again, reduce the use of electricity. In other words, in theory, yes, everyone's perfectly happy to see some effort to curb emissions, but when it comes right down to it, they're not really interested in paying for it. And I think what Americans are beginning to figure out is that as the president pushes to shut down cheap coal plants, which is what they are, and basically makes it more important to you, or puts a priority on using more expensive renewables, that the cost of electricity is going to start to go up. In fact, last year it did start to go up for the first time in a very long time. Americans have become very accustomed to cheap energy, cheap power in this country, and that could change if the president is allowed to push further the reduction in emissions that come about through changing our energy mix. What's actually happened in our country is that we've had this tremendous bonanza of discovering how to produce a great deal of natural gas and oil, but primarily natural gas that was trapped in so-called tight formations. Because of fracturing, we now have like literally 100-year supply of natural gas that no one really expected. And as a result, the price of natural gas has plummeted and has pushed coal out of the mix in a great many states. And so our emissions in this country over the last 10 years are actually down. And that obviously contrasts with not only China and India and other fast-growing countries that are still seeing their emissions increase, but it also contrasts with the EU, which has made such an entire hash of trying to get off of oil and gas that they've ended up, in some cases, literally burning peat, which is probably the lignite, the nastiest fuel around, because they basically ran short of power from other sources. But anyway, getting back to this piece, number one, I think people don't really trust President Obama anymore. There have been too many lies out of the Obama White House about, being able to keep your doctor, keep your insurance plan, etc., and many, many others that your listeners, I'm sure, are familiar with. And so when he comes on and tells us this is the defining issue of our time and the biggest threat that faces the country, I think we all kind of roll our eyes and just say, well, maybe, but we don't really trust the president to make that clear. And secondly, as I say, I think people are becoming more sophisticated at looking at our power mix, looking at what's going on here and contrasting it to what's happened in Europe, where, again, they've made a big push to limit carbon emissions. And the net result of that is that in the EU, in the European Union, people pay about twice as much for electricity as we do here in the U.S. In Germany, where they made a huge push for alternative energy, they pay 4 times as much, which is why German companies now are investing more in plants that they have in the U.S. and also looking to build new plants in the U.S. This is a very important thing that Americans need to understand, is that we have a seriously important advantage compared not only to Asian countries and our rivals in Asia like China and Japan, but also with Europe. We have a huge advantage in cheap energy here. And this is something new. It was not always the case, because we did face decades of declining oil production in the U.S., but because of technology, it's been turned around. The Obama White House has not wanted to talk about it because they don't like the oil and gas business for a lot of reasons, including political. But the truth is, this has really changed our so-called factors of production. One of the factors of production is labor. We are not competitive with labor rates around the world. But another one is energy, and we are very much competitive on energy. So this is an important thing. The third thing, by the way, the third reason I cite in this piece about why Americans are not enthusiastic about a Paris climate agreement is we don't trust Obama to negotiate on behalf of the United States. We've seen in his negotiations on the Iran nuclear deal, in his negotiations to open up communications with Cuba, and also in our dealings with China, that very often President Obama will give away the store in order to conclude some legacy deal that is good for him. And that's a pretty harsh thing to say, but I think when you look at the nuclear program and the nuclear accord, for example, there are so many problems with it, so many things that the President and John Kerry could have pressed for, including release of Americans held hostage in Iran, and they simply didn't. They were too keen to sign on the dotted line, and even the New York Times took them to task for this, which is obviously kind of a statement since the Times is so much a fan of the Obama White House. So I think, at the end of the day, the President and all these 200 countries may or may not come up with some agreement. It won't be binding because Congress simply won't allow a treaty to go forward. And generally speaking, I don't think it will favor the U.S. because the President wants to have a piece of paper, and, the terms of that piece just aren't quite as important as, again, his legacy achievement.
Well, I think you've pretty much said it in a nutshell, Liz. I don't think the American people trust this president, and I certainly don't think they trust these international negotiations, especially on the subject of the environment or climate change or pollution or the controls on pollution. I think the American people are supportive of being good stewards of our resources, and I think everybody accepts in this day and age that pollution can damage the environment. We want to try to have as minimal a carbon imprint as we can. I don't think any of us accept the science behind the climate change that's being discussed over and over again by this president, by others who lean to the liberal on this issue. So I'm so glad you're here to speak with us. My producer says it's time to take a break. Can you hold on for just 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Listeners, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. We're coming to you live from Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .com. We're speaking with Liz Teague, and we'll be right back with you after this break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. You can log on to the leadingedgeradionetwork.com, at 1 p.m. roarradio.net, or at 6 p.m. log on to thepunandpress.com. Our guest this segment is Liz Peek. She's a writer for the Fiscal Times, and we're discussing her article, 3 Reasons Americans Won't Back Obama's Paris Climate Accord. Liz, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, Liz, we love having you on. Every time I hear your voice, I think, this is the best voice that doesn't have her own radio show.
Oh, that's very cute.
Hey, Liz, another great article that's up on Fiscal Times that you have written, and you make some great points in here. One, you talk about the true cost of the green agenda and how the EU pays twice as much for electricity as the United States. And Liz, when I read that, what jogged my mind was back in the 70s when the price of gas and oil and electricity was going through the roof. What people here in the United States did to offset some of that cost was they burnt a lot of wood. The wood stove industry had an explosion. And, you know, when you talk about the price of electricity being double what it is in Europe, double what it is here, when I was in Europe 5 years ago, when I was in France, a gallon of gas was like $7 a gallon. And when you talk about the price of electric, the price of fuel, in rural France, 80% of rural France heats their homes by burning wood.
Yeah, which of course is extremely polluting.
There you go.
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of sort of dumb-headed things that go on under the guise of environmentalism. And look, as we discussed earlier, everyone wants clean air. But
sure.
By the way, as a side note here, I would tell you this. One of the more interesting things and sort of idiotic things that has happened in the last year is that President Obama got together with Chinese Premier Xi Jinping. And if you recall, it was widely celebrated that Obama had coaxed the head of China into signing an agreement or into concluding an agreement that called for Chinese emissions to peak in the year 2030. And this is hailed as a tremendous achievement by President Obama. People should know that, first of all, there was no indication in that agreement of what level those emissions would peak at. So effectively, we are saying to China, okay, for the next 15 years, you know, the world's your oyster. Go ahead and do whatever you have to do. But meanwhile, China is facing an increasing surge of dramatic protests about the fact that their air is so foul that routinely now in Shanghai, the airport is closed. Their major, massive international airport closes because of poor visibility. In Beijing, the airport's closed. often because of poor visibility. The schools close, businesses close. Americans have no idea what's going on in China. It is disgusting. And guess what? There's an emerging middle class in China. It's around 300 million people now. They know it's disgusting. They know they should not have to wear masks over their mouths and noses during the winter months when the heat is on because the air is so foul. People have likened it to smoking 40 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
That harmful to your health.
And
so when we talk about how, isn't it great, Obama got the Chinese to do this, he didn't have anything to do with it. The Chinese are facing serious political backlash, and as we all know, that the number one thing in Chinese policymaking is to avoid social unrest. They now have social unrest on this issue of foul air. And, of course, every Chinese that can is basically leaving the country because nobody wants to raise their children in an environment where you literally, it's unsafe to breathe the air. So, yes, they have sort of paid lip service to wanting to be part of this. By the way, Chinese emissions now are about twice what the U.S. are. So what they do is vastly more important than what we do. They have been given a free ride because, they were late to the party, and we're supposed to feel guilty because we have been spewing out carbon for lengthier time than China. Well, they're catching
up, right? In fact, in China, they have a huge building program building coal-fired plants.
Right.
And when they build a coal-fired plant, they build cheap, dirty coal-fired plants. It's not, Liz, occasionally my wife and I, we go down to the Jersey Shore, we buy a pizza from one of our favorite pizza places, and we go to a park and we have a pizza picnic. Now, this park is virtually in the shadow of the Beasley Point generating station, which is a coal-fired plant, and the only thing you ever see coming out of its smokestack, Liz, is steam.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah, but not in China. In China, they're building these dirty plants.
Yeah, they are. They're building. They have permits out right now for 155 new coal-fired power plants, which are the equivalent in terms of power output of 60 Hoover dams. Just to kind of wrap your head around that. And activists are suggesting that, the coal industry in China is overbuilt, so even though they may build these plants, they may not use them totally.
Oh.
To your point, they're totally, first of all, the number...
Don't build something you're not going to use.
Well, and, it's kind of stupid because they have underestimated or understated the amount of coal they've been burning for the last 20 years. So we really don't know what the numbers are.
Hey, Liz, got time for one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, Barack Obama come trumpeting back from Paris. I think he was really going to start to shove this down our throat. And he actually got some more ammunition yesterday with the shootings out in California because, according to Barack Obama, terrorism is caused by climate change.
Yeah, I'd really like to see the dots connected on that one.
Well,
I wrote something on my Facebook page today just because I was so incensed that this had happened, and also that the media was going to such enormous lengths to deny what was becoming clear, which was that this was a radicalized Islamic couple that basically had intended to carry out an attack with maximum damage to innocent people.
Amen.
It was interesting to me that the English newspapers, The Guardian and the Daily Mail, were the ones that were really out there saying, hey, this guy's, here's what's on his dating site, here's what's on his social media stuff. Somehow we weren't going there. And I think, I'm a pretty moderate, reasonable person, but let's connect the dots, folks. I mean, if we have people, with body armor and the makings for bombs in their apartment and numerous assault-style weapons, what do we think those people are up to? I mean, is this, really?
I guess they didn't like Christmas parties.
Oh, my God. And they're talking about mental illness. All three people simultaneously had an attack of schizophrenia. I mean, come on. This is ludicrous. And we're not going to be, I do believe we are not going to be able to confront this threat of Islamic radicalism unless we can talk about it. If we're not honest about it, I'm tired of this White House treating us like children, and that's what they do.
I love that. Liz Peek, Fiscal Times. Please tell our audience where they can read your work.
Oh, well, thank you. I do have a website, lizpeek.com. It's P-E-E-K. But I'd love people to come on my Facebook page because that's relatively new, and I'm not very good at it. So I really encourage people. You have to find my journalist Facebook page, not my regular Facebook page. I don't think it's that hard. But anyway, love to have people visit.
And I would love for you, if you ever get the idea that you would like to do radio, either host your own show or whatever, you give me a call.
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you.
I
I
need your
talked
own
about
show.
that before. I think I'm too disorganized.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Anyway, I appreciate the encouragement, and good luck to you. It sounds like it's going well.
Well, thank you. It is. And Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, too. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay,
And you are
I
listening.
know.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Daniel Little and Rick Trader. Coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360. Around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, AM, FM 24/7. We're everywhere, we're everywhere. Don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Ash Show. Be right back.
Yeah, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. we're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com, 1 p.m., RoarRadio.net, and 6 p.m., thepunditpress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is with us. Ash Show is an editorial and commentary writer for the Washington Examiner. Previously, she worked as an editor and writer for the Heritage Foundation and Heritage Action for America. She joins us today to talk about an article she's written entitled Brown University Students Create Secret Group for Free Speech. Ash, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm glad to have you. And, you know, it seems rather shocking to me that university students would need to create a secret group in order to have free speech. Can you talk to us a little bit about what's going on at Brown University?
Right. Well, after the protests that have been taking campuses kind of by storm over the past month, some students, they don't agree with this. They don't think that the concerns of the protesters are reflection of reality, and they're realizing that if they speak up against the protesters, that they are shrouded down as racist or whatever, if you want to call them. So at Brown University, at least, in order to have a group where you could actually exchange ideas that used to be freely exchanged on a college campus but are now disallowed because maybe they're conservative or they don't back everything that the protesters say. so students have created a Facebook group, a private or a secret Facebook group, and I guess they meet, and there's about 100 members in the group, and they have to meet in secret in order to have real discussions about real topics.
Well, it sure sounds to me like we're stepping backward here. I mean, I know that we had this great revolution a couple centuries ago, and that was supposed to protect, as First Amendment to the Constitution, free speech, freedom of the press, freedom of association, and that seems like what these students are I guess, in danger of losing if they haven't already lost. I mean, it seems that freedom that was so central to the founders seems to not be important at Brown University. Am I misreading the situation?
No, I mean, that's what we're seeing on college campuses, where if you disagree with somebody, if they're a protester, if they're in very specific groups, that you are the wrong kind of person. You are a horrible person, and you shouldn't have your views. These students don't want to have their views challenged. They don't want to hear the other side of the story. They don't want their opinions or their beliefs challenged in any way. And so, no, it's absurd, and I'm surprised that Brown is the only school that has this.
Okay, well, it's very troubling. Now, I'd like to look a little bit deeper into this. I guess there are students there that have said that they know very well in what company to speak freely and in what company to keep their mouth shut. Well, isn't that kind of how we operate in ordinary life? I mean, I choose with whom I will... I check my audience, I guess, before I decide to open the topic. It doesn't mean in that circumstance that I'm limited in my speech, but I'm making a decision whether I'm looking for a debate at that moment or whether I'm looking to avoid a debate. And I think that's a fair decision for every individual to make. But at the same time, if there's going to be some kind of retribution for speaking your mind, should you decide that you want to enter into debate at that moment, well, I guess that's where the trouble occurs, right? Has that been happening at Brown University?
At Brown University and at the other universities, I believe, I don't remember what school, just kind of had a poll of students or a speaker, I believe it was Jonathan Haidt, went to speak at a university and was talking to students and, do you feel comfortable to speak up in class? And most of the students that raised their hand were the students that would be protesting right now. And do you feel like if you speak up in class that you will be shouted down or, that you would receive some sort of backlash, whether from the students or your professor? And most of the students that raised their hand were especially men and white students. So you're starting to see this shift where certain ID and conservative students, obviously, where you're seeing that only certain people are allowed to speak and nobody else is allowed to voice an opinion because their opinion is automatically wrong.
Well, I see this example that's listed here about the campus newspaper. And it seems that there's a group that's protesting a campus newspaper for perpetrating quote-unquote violences. I don't know how a newspaper can be violent. The violence is against Native and Indigenous peoples and border communities of color. Apparently, something that was written by, I guess, predominantly, they're calling them whites. Well, I need more specifics than that. Just because you're light skinned doesn't mean you're all of the same nationality or the same, mind. But they're saying that predominantly white writers at this campus newspaper is why these indigenous peoples and border communities of color felt that they could make this accusation. But talk to me about how a newspaper can be violent. I mean, it's a paper. It's paper and ink, right?
Well, that's where we've come in this country, at least on college campuses, where they start saying words are violence. I mean, Brown's not the only one. There have been other universities where, especially with trigger warnings, the act of having to warn somebody that a particular topic might come up and that might trigger some possible trauma for them at some point in their life. Because we all know that the best way to deal with something is to completely shut it out of your life, throw up into a ball, and never, ever see it again. That's healthy. But what we're seeing is these students who are equating words that they don't like, not incitements of harassment, not words that are telling somebody to go be violent, but just words that they do not like, are being compared to actual physical violence. And so that's where it comes from, where now that words are violence, that if a newspaper isn't as sufficiently diverse as protesters want, then that is physical violence against them, even though they haven't even been touched in any way by a piece of paper.
Okay, so I can't seem to find the rational progression here. Basically, differing opinions are a problem, and so if someone has a different opinion than you do on any topic, they are now deemed violent. We have to go back to definitions. I mean, are we changing the definition of what's violent? I mean, I can pull up a definition of violence, and I can tell you that it has nothing to do with speech, I don't think. It's behavior. Violence. Behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. It's an inappropriate use of the word, and certainly an inappropriate description of what violence is. It can be, as a secondary definition, strength of emotion or an unpleasant or destructive natural force.
Yeah, Anna, can I jump in for a minute? Ask if you don't mind. Listening to the conversation, it seems to me dialogue was the thing that was supposed to stop violence.
I agree.
Isn't that what the United Nations was supposed to be all about? A place where people could get together and talk and have dialogue to prevent wars, to prevent violence. Oh, wow, if we come full circle.
Well, even Martin Luther King believed that, you don't just shut people out, that there was this idea that by talking to people, by voicing your opinion, that you could, there was a chance that you could turn them to your side, that they could stop being, terrible racists by words, right? So now we've gone from that to, instead of even attempting to turn somebody or to reason with somebody, you just want to cast that person out of society. I mean, you don't agree with somebody, that person's automatically the wrong one. There's no possible chance that you could be wrong, and that person needs to be tormented and just run out into the woods and never heard from again.
But don't you think, Ash, that perhaps this is akin to a repeat of the abuses that these arguably minority groups may have suffered in the past, but which we've worked together with them to avoid that suffering? And it seems like as they're getting to the point where they're part of our society and respected as such, that they're not going to perpetrate that same bad behavior against other people. It just seems to me like it's completely contradictory, hypocritical. I mean, my word, they fought to be respected equally, and now they want things to be unequal and themselves to be in the power. I mean, that's just going to the opposite extreme, is it not?
Absolutely, and you also see that these students who are learning about the oppression of the past are now, I mean, in my mind, I think it comes from wanting to feel like you're a part of something bigger, some kind of movement. And racism doesn't exist today the way that it did back in the 60s.
Right. So if it's not there, then manufacture it, right?
Right. Now everything
Well,
has
Ash,
to
we've
be
got to go to break. Can you hold on for just 2 minutes while we identify the station?
Sure.
Please do. Okay, we're speaking with Ash Show at Conservative Commandos Radio Show, coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, the flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, 98 Talk, Heart Radio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. They're all .com. We'll be right back with Ash Show after the break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stockings. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. If you want to hear a rebroadcast, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. You can also hear rebroadcast on your computer by logging on to Leading Edge Radio Network, roarradio.net, or with thepunandpress.com. You can hear our show also from your telephone. You don't need an app. You don't need to download anything. Just call 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Ash Show. She's an editor and commentary writer for the Washington Examiner. And we're discussing an article she wrote that at Brown University, students created a secret group for free speech. Ash, when I saw that, I just had to have you on. That this group was, it's a secret group created for free speech. And in my opinion, this is what happened when you have a very vocal group who try to grab more power by demonizing you and making anything that you say that they disagree with racist, homophobic, or sexual.
Yeah, I think somebody on Twitter called this speakeasies for free speech, or speak freezies. The cute one. But you're seeing this across campuses where if you don't conform to what the protesters say, then you're shouted down. We saw the Duke students, or was it Duke? I'm so bad with names right now. I've been writing about so many different schools who went to, or was it Dartmouth, who went into the library and were screaming at students and if they didn't stand up with them, then they were called racist or, whatever. And I just say, like, how are you going to make your point by screaming at people and telling them that they're awful people if they don't agree with you?
Well, that's their, in my opinion, Ash, that's what they want to do. As I said, they want to demonize you, But if you don't agree with them, then you're a bad person. You're racist, you're a homophobe, you're sexist. They give you all these tags and names. And what I think it's come down to, Ash, is I think that college campuses are full of spoiled brats that are having their heads packed full of garbage by other spoiled brats. Just happen to have white and gray hair by that time.
Yeah, it does definitely seem to be the case where, they've had an easy trophy for participation life, and now they have to get out of their bubble and experience a little bit of the real world, and they don't seem to be able to handle it. And they basically want the college administration to substitute for mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because you saw these protests kind of disappear for a little while when they went home to Thanksgiving and they had their mommy and daddies giving them free food. And now they're back on campus complaining again.
Well, Anna and Ash, I can remember back in the 70s when the rallies and demonstrations on campuses were calling for free speech. Now free speech has to go and hide. And we've seen many examples, and I don't know what triggered this, Ash. Maybe you can help me out. But we see what's happened on the University of Missouri campus. Up at Princeton University, they want the name of Woodrow Wilson removed from the library because of some bone they've got to pick with the man that's been dead for about 100 years. I mean, maybe they're not studying hard enough, or maybe they all need jobs to put themselves through schools rather than depending upon mommy and daddy and the government to put them through college.
Right. If students were forced, like colleges are supposed to actually, start to be prepared for the real world, then these protests wouldn't be happening because school administrators would be telling them to grow up.
Ash, I think the media also has a responsibility for this, too. For instance, a couple of weeks ago at Rowan University, which is not far from where we're broadcasting, they had a rally. And the reporting of this rally was unbelievable. It took up one half of the front page of what they call the South Jersey Times. One half of the front page. They called it the March on Mullica Hill. I mean, you would swear there were thousands of people there. But when you read the details, there are about 40 kids at this rally that was reported on and got half the front page.
Oh, right. Well, that's the other thing, is that the media is egging these kids on because they're seeing that if they whine and they complain and they shut down the school,
bunch of spoiled brats.
They're going to get attention.
Bunch of spoiled brats. Ash, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Please tell our audience how they can follow your work.
Well, you can read me at thewashingtonexaminer.com or the New York Observer. You can also follow me on Twitter at @AshScow. You can like my Facebook page.
I've been calling you Show. It's Scow. Sorry about that, Ash.
Fine.
My bad.
No worries.
Well, anyway, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Have a Merry Christmas. Take care. God bless.
You too. Bye.
All right, Anna, we have a couple of minutes. Anything you wanted to throw out there?
Well, on the subject of free speech, Rick,
and with your kids in college, what are they saying about what's going on in the?
Oh, they were raised by me. I mean, Rick, look, we taught our kids to think critically and to speak up for their thoughts and their beliefs, to educate themselves on the beliefs of others, no matter how offensive they may be, and to look into perhaps the source of those beliefs. And, our kids challenge authority. They do so respectfully. They do so in an appropriate forum, but they challenge authority. And that's what Americans have learned to do because of the oppressions our founding fathers were subjected to under British rule. So, I don't really understand the thought that if someone is saying something that is offensive to me or disrespectful, that suddenly that's violence against me. I mean, I understand the inciting of others to violence, and that falls into the category of speech that is not protected, speech that could be limited, and I completely understand that. But I don't believe that disagreements on an issue can ever arise to that. They can be voiced. You can choose to accept it. You can choose to reject it. You can choose to associate with that individual or not based on what their belief system is, until they cross the line and impose themselves upon you physically. I don't see any way that it becomes other than a protected speech situation.
I think it's a power thing, Anna. Their side, the left, the radical left, wants to grab the power, and they do that. And, you see it on a lot of TV shows, Anna. They want to grab the power, so they try to holler at and talk over their opponent. It's their tactic. And it's a very successful tactic because, Anna, I think we're too nice. And we let them do it. We let them get away with it. And we don't want to be racist. We don't want to be sexist. We don't want to be homophobes. So we shut up. And I think that's the wrong thing to do.
I think I agree with you. I mean, look, you can't shut me up.
No, can't shut me up.
You can't shut me up. So, that's futile. But
hey, Anna, we got to go to get our break in to get our next guest on. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little. Rick Trader coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly. Around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, AMFM247.com. On the other side, we're going to have our friend J.D. Gordon, Fox News contributor, come on to talk about will ROTC survive on the campus? Don't go away. We'll be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and CCRShow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. 1 p.m., WarRadio.net. And 6 p.m., ThePunditPress.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is with us, J.D. Gordon. He's a former Pentagon spokesman who served under both Secretary Donald Rumsfeld and Secretary Robert Gates from 2005 to 2009, and he's a retired Navy commander. Since leaving the Defense Department, Gordon has served as a senior fellow and communications policy advisor to numerous think tanks, foundations, and national political figures, including former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin and former presidential candidate Mr. Herman Cain. Gordon, a contributing columnist to Fox News and the Washington Times since 2010, has regularly appeared as a national security and foreign policy commentator on a wide variety of international, national, and local Washington, D.C. television and radio outlets in English and in Spanish languages. J.D., welcome back to Conservative Commando's radio show.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Rick. Great to be with you today.
Well, welcome back home, I should say, as you're on this show an awful lot.
Thanks, Anna.
Well, Anna, that's because we love to bring the best of the best guests to our listeners, and that's why we have J.D. on a lot.
Oh,
thanks, Rick.
That,
you guys are too kind.
Well, I'm so glad that you're coming on to talk to us about college campuses, and especially the ROTC. As a matter of fact, there's an article here I'm looking at that's written by you, and the title of it is, Will the ROTC Survive on Campus? Tell us what you were thinking when you wrote that article.
Well, I was thinking that I was a midshipman at Penn State University, one of my favorite places in the world. I was there during the Reagan and Bush 41 years, and I'm worried today about our college campuses, so I wrote a column for American Military News. It's at AmericanMilitaryNews.com, entitled, Will ROTC Survive on Campus? Because I'm seeing our campuses today being swept up in this left-wing inspired hysteria, this political correctness run amok, that something like Chairman Mao or Vladimir Lenin, Che Guevara, they'd be proud of it, because there's this neo-totalitarianism sweeping our college towns and universities these days, where it's no longer free speech. If you don't agree with the people that are trying to institute this type of really totalitarian state where only their view counts and there's rigid control only by them, and if you don't agree, they'll run you off campus, I'm worried that in that far left-wing climate where they see often the military, our own military, as the enemy, I'm worried that ROTC could survive on campus, because ROTC has been very important. It's about the source for about 40% of officer commissions in the military. It's been going strong for 99 years. You know, a lot of ROTC units were shut down and physically attacked during the Vietnam War. And I'm afraid it could come to that these days, too, because it's just really headed south around campuses all around the country. Just look at some of the news reports from places like Yale and Princeton and University of Missouri and you name it. I mean, it's being taken over literally by the far left, people that would like to silence the military and drive them under. It's worrisome.
I agree it's worrisome. Now, you're a retired naval commander, so I guess you're the appropriate person to ask. I mean, I usually tell people on the appropriate holidays and usually some days in between that we need to appreciate our freedom here. I mean, the fact that we live in the United States of America makes our life experience very, very different than that of our fellow human beings around the globe, because our founding fathers fought for those freedoms. But I also remind them that those freedoms are not even free today, because there are men and women in the military putting themselves in harm's way for those freedoms and for the safety and well-being of every single one of us. So talk to us about the importance of the United States military, all the branches, and what would our nation be without it?
Well, I believe that the United States is a force for good. I believe that we're a force for democracy and a force that's been positive for so many people around the globe. If not for the U.S., look, I mean, Europe would be speaking German today. Asia would be speaking Japanese under the command of totalitarian fascist states. But we stepped up and, you know, we won World War II for the cause of freedom. And we defeated the Soviet Union for the cause of freedom, too, because the Soviet Union model of communism wanted to enslave the world under a class warfare type scenario. And so the U.S. has been a force for good. And that's what I learned when I was growing up in New Jersey and went to school at Penn State. But, you know, Anna, unfortunately, the left wing has taken over university campuses today. So you have, instead of learning about the founding fathers and how they fought for liberty, you know, the original Tea Party, right, was about dumping tea in the Boston Harbor because they didn't want to have a taxation with representation. But today on college campuses, they teach more about how many slaves the founding fathers had, how many slaves children were fathered by them. I mean, that's the kind of nonsense people are hearing about today so often. And sure, I mean, history should be taught. I'm not saying that that's not the case. I'm saying that the kids on college campuses shouldn't obsess with these microaggressions these days they hear, where everything they think is racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, everything they think, everything they hear, they get offended by. Because I think it's a very spoiled generation. They take freedom for granted, number one. And number two, the reason they're doing that is because the people that run universities these days were the Vietnam War protesters when they were kids, when they were coming up. But now they're the people in their 60s running things. So it's like they're teaching pyromania to these kids that the U.S. has not been a force for good. Well, then they shouldn't be surprised when pyromaniacs burn down their own schools figuratively. Look at Princeton, right near where you guys are broadcasting from. The dean's office was taken over by the Black Lives Matter, saying they wanted to erase President Woodrow Wilson's name off of everything. He was the most famous Princeton alum and, figure for Princeton. But they said, well, he's a racist, so got to erase his name off everything. In Yale, there was the Shrieking Girl. I mean, her video was famous, went viral around the world. This spoiled brat, I'd like to call her. She was yelling and screaming with obscenities at this guy who was kind of a left-leaning faculty member because he didn't want to. He actually took a stand against the far left and saying, "Look, I'm not going to police Halloween costumes for people." Yet he was accosted by about 100 students saying he's not providing a place of comfort and home. And this girl's rant is epic. You should see it on YouTube if the listeners haven't seen it. It's called The Shrieking Girl. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible. University of Missouri, the president of University of Missouri, the chancellor had to resign because this kid who was actually a kid grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Dad made $8 million a year, makes $8 million a year as a top railroad executive. Well, he says he's discriminated against because he has a racist campus with zero proof, by the way. So he went on a hunger strike. The football team got behind him. Next thing you know, the whole top of the University of Missouri is being toppled. And so I think it is unbelievable, Anna. So I'm worried about it.
Yeah, of course you should be. And I'm really glad you come on to the show today to talk about it. We've got to take a quick break. It's 4:45, and that's what the schedule says here. So I'm going to take us to break. But if you'll hold on for just 2 minutes, we'll come back because I want to talk to you about how we got to this point. Listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Rebooting Liberty Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. We'll be right back with retired Naval Commander J.D. Gordon after the break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
This holiday season, help Soldiers for Stockings improve the morale and welfare of members of our armed forces deployed overseas. Now through November 20th, there is so much work to be done, and you can help in many ways. Download the stocking pattern from stockingsforsoldiers.org and start sewing today. Volunteer to help decorate and assemble stockings. Donate Christmas candies, snacks, nuts, chips, drink mixes, DVDs, books, magazines, lip balm, toiletries, and other items needed to fill the stocking. Or help make packets of snowman soup, hot chocolate, to send along with the stockings. For more information, patterns, and a list of items needed, visit stockingsforsoldiers.org. This holiday season, help send our troops a touch of home. For many, it's all they will receive. All stockings need to be completed by November 20th. So get started today at stockingsforsoldiers.org. That's stockingsforsoldiers.org. Stockings for Soldiers, sending stockings filled with joy to our soldiers in harm's way for the 9th consecutive year.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our shows, please check out our websites. Our guest this segment is our very good friend, J.D. Gordon. J.D. is a former Defense Department spokesman, Fox News contributor, contributing columnist for Fox News, Washington Times. And J.D., thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Rick. My pleasure.
J.D., in your article, you talk about 1,000 universities have been in a win-win for America. The military pays for college. In return, graduates serve our country in uniform. J.D., I had a cousin. My cousin Frank got a great education at LaSalle University. Went on
My uncle went to LaSalle, actually. My Uncle Buddy went to LaSalle.
Is that right? Cool.
Right. With Tom Curley, who was went on to head the AP, Associated Press. They were fraternity brothers there.
Well, my cousin Frank, after getting a great education at LaSalle, went into the Army, made a career out of it, came out as a colonel, married a general, have a great life. J.D., I look at you and, you know, your accomplishments, and I wonder, isn't this what we want our college students to get out of college, to be successful in life, to learn something that they can use and help others, rather than a degree in psychology that they never use, that they end up working in a McDonald's? I mean, to me, ROTC is setting someone on a path to success.
I totally agree, and support your family members too doing that. I mean, I think that's what we want for our country.
My cousin Frank was a smart guy. JD, my cousin Frank was a smart guy and everything, but if it wasn't for the military paying for his college, if it wasn't for ROTC, I don't know how he would have got through college. You know, his mom, my aunt, she had a vision problem. She didn't work. My uncle was career military. I mean, I don't know how else he would have went to college.
Well, I know. I mean, ROTC has been a great program for your cousin and for me and for, thousands of other patriots around the country. 99 years. And so, more than thousands, I mean, tens of thousands over the years. So it's important to keep it going. But, it's not just the loony left on campus. The Defense Department is going through $1 trillion in cuts right now, massive cuts to the Army and the Air Force in particular, but also, to the Navy, the Marines, all the services are shrinking. Opportunities are shrinking for military service. And then when you combine that with the far left taking over campuses and viewing guys like ROTC as not really helpful towards the country, I mean, that's a perfect storm. That's a disaster waiting to happen. That's why I'm trying to warn people through my column. It's like, hey, look, we can't take this ROTC for granted. We can't take our military heroes for granted whatsoever. We need more patriots like that. Otherwise, what's the alternative? Do we prefer our country to become so weak that we're ruled by people like the Russians or the Iranians or the Saudis or the North Koreans, the Chinese? I mean, because that's what it'll come to. Do we think their way of life is any better? I mean, they're totalitarian states, they're dictatorships, hardline regimes. I mean, if they think the United States is bad, if they're ashamed that we had Japanese Americans in internment camps in World War II and didn't have Germans in them, well, look, did they think it's any better if the Russians were in charge of the world or if the Chinese were? No, actually, it would be a lot worse for humanity.
JD, let's talk for a minute about these ROTC at 1,000 universities. I remembered back in the 70s, ROTC took a real big hit on the universities, or at the universities. Could you talk with me, kind of give us a timeline from that point? Has ROTC made a recovery after Vietnam?
Yeah, sure. It actually made a recovery under President Reagan. During the time that I got an ROTC scholarship was during President Reagan's term. ROTC expanded dramatically because President Reagan was going to a 600-ship Navy, and that's the largest we've ever had. And so, of course, Navy ROTC expanded, all the ROTC expanded. So they became very robust again. But now they're shrinking, too, because of the budget cuts. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about the budget cuts that we have under President Obama, $1 trillion, that's massive, unprecedented in our history, unprecedented downsizing for the size of what we have. And you talk about the far left on campus, I'm afraid that a lot of ROTC units are going to be shuttered. That hasn't happened yet.
Well, talk
ROTC
about...
units haven't been shuttered yet, but I'm worried about it.
JD, if you could talk about what would happen if there was no ROTC? Where would our military leaders come from?
Well, about 40% of them come from ROTC, so the other 60 are already not coming from ROTC. They're coming from service academies, the Naval Academy for Navy and Marine Academy out in Colorado, and the West Point, of course, for the Army up in upstate New York. And they also come from Officer Candidate School, from the different places around the... But 40%, that's a very significant...
It is.
So I worry that if we have ROTC units closed, it's going to shut off a lot of opportunities for good folks like your cousin Frank, for me, and others down the line.
Yeah. JD, here locally, Deptford Township High School, that has an ROTC program in it. In the minute or so that we have left, could you talk about the value of ROTC in high schools?
Yeah, ROTC in high school is very good because it formulates kids to go to college and say, well, I'm going to continue this ROTC. I like the flavor of it. I like the structure. I like the military ideology, the military moral code. I think I'm going to continue this in college. So junior ROTC is a great place to start because it sets folks on the right path, whether they enlist after high school or whether they go into ROTC in college. It's an excellent program, and I wish more young people did it.
About how many high schools around the country have ROTC?
Well, that I don't know. I don't know. I know universities is about 1,000, a little over 1,000 for all of the services, but I'm not sure about JROTC.
And you don't hear about those kids getting into trouble, do you?
Very rarely. And, their equivalent is the boarding type school that Donald Trump went to. He went to New York Military Academy, which is like a high school plus a middle school. It's just where kids go to boarding school, but the equivalent of junior ROTC. And then Ben Carson, actually, in Michigan, he went to a junior ROTC. That's where he was quoted about in his book about being offered a scholarship to West Point. I think he meant that he got the invitation to apply, but when you write a book, that kind of gets lost in the translation, so to speak. But I guess Ben Carson was in junior ROTC apparently, and then Donald Trump was in the military boarding school equivalent.
Seems like ROTC is a breeding ground for leaders.
I think it is, and it'd be a real shame if it goes away. That's why we need to stand up for our people in uniform, stand up for ROTC, and don't let the loony left kick them off campus, and don't let President Obama cut the military by $1 trillion, because that's going to end up in closure of a lot of these units over time.
JD Gordon, want to thank you excuse me, so much for joining us today. Every time I turn on the TV, I see you. Where will we see you next?
I'll be on Fox News on Monday, and so I hope you guys can tune in. It'll be during the 11 a.m. hour.
All right, and how can our listeners follow your work?
They can take a look at my website. It's protectamericatoday.com, and also look for my columns at the Daily Caller, Fox News, Washington Times. J.D.
Gordon, thanks so much. Take care. God bless, my friend.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Anna. Have a great day.
Thank you. Anna, we got about 30 seconds. I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. But final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts. People, remember who's in charge. You are the people of the United States of America. Don't let them take your guns. Don't let them limit your speech. Do not go into hiding. Speak up, speak your mind, and defend yourself against terrorism.
All right. With that, I want to thank Mr. John Forsyth Jr. for working the boards. I also want to thank our guests, Liz Peak, Ash Show, and our most recent guest, J.D. Gordon. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you on the radio.